Hey, this is the Entertainment Advice Channel. What I want to talk about today is the topic of the top 5 ways that sampling ruins music, okay? So for this video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 ways sampling in one way or the other affects the music listener, when it comes to producing the best quality that they can experience in music, okay? So if you're interested in knowing why sampling is bad for music, then watch this video in order to find out, as well as wait till the end for me to give an alternative to sampling, okay? So that is what I'll be discussing for this video today. So if you're someone who loves music like me, then watch this video in order to find out so we can help make music better, okay? So now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the first reason why sampling is bad for music, it's simply down to the fact that it can sound variety, okay? Because the truth of the matter is when it comes to sound variety is extremely important for music because it's a system that's meant to prevent all music from all sounds, okay? Because have you ever listened to music of a certain genre or subgenre, whatever, and it all sounds the same over time, and as a result it gets tiresome? It's like, I've literally heard a song easily that sounds this way at least 3 to 5, if not more, 10 or even more so times. Then that is an example of that specific genre or subgenre, whatever I can say, or even artist not having a lot of sound variety. Okay, sound variety is extremely important because it prevents all your music from sounding the same. Because when your music all sounds the same, to answer your question, it gets tiresome and boring, and not just boring, it just can even bring up thoughts that are not worth mentioning. But the point is that it definitely kills the ability to enjoy music because music all sounds the same. It doesn't sound different and it gets tiresome. Okay? Which, of course, the question that's going to come up is how does sampling have a role in this? Well, it definitely has. Because the truth of the matter is, as we all know, in the music industry, everyone wants to be, okay? Everyone wants to have a top hit, top this, top that. And a lot of people who use sampling specifically in genres like rap and other ones like electronic music, pop music, whatever, but specifically, of course, rap, they tend to have something where they tend to have certain songs that they tend to primarily like to sample. There's certainly songs that have been sampled anywhere from hundreds, if not thousands, or even more so times, okay? Which obviously is going to have one song, and not just one song, there's multiple songs that have been sampled literally hundreds of thousands of times. But if, to some things, even more so, a few songs that have been literally sampled hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of times, of course it's going to affect a variety of sounds you can use in music because people have used the same sounds so many times, which creates a situation where you hear a lot of songs that sound exactly the same. And which rap, to be honest with you, even in the golden age, I have to admit, a lot of the songs do kind of sound the same. And sampling is the reason for that because it obviously encourages people to use the same beats and not just the same beats, or more like use other people's beats for that matter. But it encourages to create a culture where, since everyone wants to be top number one, that use the same beats over and over again, so their music starts to sound repetitive, and that's almost true. So to answer your question first and foremost, it definitely kills sound variety because it creates a situation where all the music starts to sound the same, because people use the same thing over and over again. So without a doubt of a doubt, it kills sound variety. So that's the first reason why sampling ruins music, okay? The second reason is that it makes it easier for people to play tracks, okay? So if you're a person who likes to listen to music, and you have a favorite artist, okay, and an artist you really like a lot, okay, and with the only issue being that he hasn't got enough media coverage, okay, the truth of the matter is, do you want, okay, we're crying out loud, to be 100% honest and blunt with you, do you want to have a situation where an artist who's bigger, who you might not even like any of his music, and if you like any, it's very little, to steal someone's actual beat for their songs that they might have even created without sampling, and just simply market it as being theirs, okay? And that's another big problem with sampling, is that it makes it easier for people to plagiarize, okay? As a point of sampling is the idea that, okay, I can take something from someone else and put my own spin on it, but sometimes people just blatantly steal people's ideas. People steal people's beats without their permission, which, in all honesty though, especially in this internet age, accusing someone of plagiarization is literally one of the biggest career issues you could ever have. When you accuse someone of plagiarization, to be quite blunt and honest with you, it makes it so easy for stupid people online to just try to harass you and give you a hard time, okay? And to think that somebody would literally, who worked their ass off, really in all honesty, has to have their music stolen by someone, and when they make accusations, they're not being a dick, they're trying to be fair, okay, like, seriously, he stole my shit, you know, all he's met with is hate comments from this artist who happens to be a lot bigger and popular. And that's another problem with sampling, is that it makes it easier for people to plagiarize people's ideas, and makes the life of people who confront those people for plagiarizing a complete fucking living hell, okay? And that's honest truth, which obviously for the listener, how it affects us, you know, is that if we're listening to an artist who we're like, God, I love their music, and now he has music plagiarized and everyone's making fun of him, it makes it more likely he might stop making music. Because it's like, okay, he made good music in the past, but now he's not doing it, he's doing cyberbullying, okay? So that's another reason why sampling ruins music, is that it makes it easier for people to plagiarize stuff and terrorize the people who actually made a good quality music, which of course affects us listeners because we have artists we like who just disappear overnight, okay? So that's the second reason why sampling ruins music, okay? The third reason is that it takes away the need for real instruments, okay? Now this one is definitely very true, because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the need for instruments are something that's obviously very big and needed. And if you obviously have music genres like rap and a lot of electronic, pop, all that kind of stuff, being the most popular genres out there, to be quite blunt and honest with you, the truth of the matter is, obviously if you have those genres that are most popular, that primarily use, you know, samples from that other people have made and so on and so forth in the past before, to make their beats, common sense 101 is going to tell you it's going to affect the instrument industry. Because at the end of the day, if you obviously have something that can produce, of course, music easily, you know, without you actually having to do anything, because it's made either by someone, a popular artist many decades ago, or it's even, for example, made by only a select few artists on these sample websites, who, you know, these sampling string websites and stuff. Obviously the need for using a variety of instruments will obviously cease, if anything, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, what's the need for making complex sounding music aside from maybe a few maybe, you know, easy patterns on a piano or something, when you can have an art where you can just download a sample easily. Like it's common sense 101. There will be a less of a need for instruments, because the most complicated sounds you can make, that obviously make music sound the best, which obviously you understand about music, like the B part of music is something called lead, which is the most complex, beautiful sounding part of the song, you know, that's used by an instrument. But if you have that lead via sample, then it won't be as much of a need for real instruments, which obviously will affect the quality of music. Because one of the things that affects the quality of music, especially for us listeners, is how good quality the sound of the instrument is, okay? Because when you listen to a lot of music that just uses samples and stuff, the quality is not the greatest, specifically when it's computer-based music, okay? It sounds like sometimes something that might be made on like a game system or something, compared to something of a real instrument that gives a much nicer, piercing quality in terms of its sound effect, okay? So obviously that can affect us listeners if we obviously have, you know, no instruments anymore, okay? And that's all the truth. So that's the third way sampling can affect us listeners, okay? So now on to the fourth thing, to be honest with you, is that it kills the feeling of authenticity. Because let's keep it real, okay? Whether we like to admit it or not, okay? Especially since the beginning of the 20th century, we all like to feel like we live in the era that we live in, okay? Just like you feel in the 1990s, if you lived in that era at least, you want to really feel like you're in the 1990s. If you live in the 2000s, you really want to feel like you live in the 2000s, okay? 2010s, 2020s, 2030s onward, you really want to feel like you live in the era that you live in. But when you use samples, it kills the feeling of authenticity, because you might listen to a song that people say literally defines your generation, but when you actually look it up, a lot of the instruments that were used for that beat was literally made decades ago, okay? Which obviously affects us listeners, because we really want to feel like we live in the era that we fucking live in, okay? And if you have something that's produced that was made by that consists of instruments that was used decades ago, then obviously it kills the feeling of, guess what, authenticity. because you feel like, okay, this doesn't feel like this was truly defines my era anymore because it was made by someone so and so and so long ago. So that is one thing. Another thing that it does, it kills the feeling of authenticity. Okay, um, to be quite blunt and honest with you. Okay, and now, of course, on to the last point, the very, very, very last point when it comes to, of course, how sampling, um, kills music, and stuff. And I'll get to explaining my points more, my point of what we can use to replace sampling for the next video. Okay, the part two of this series. But on to this last point. Simply put it just simply comes on the fact that it kills um the obvious success of the artist you support because it costs a ton of money for sample clearance, okay? Because to get a sample, even if you pay and do it legally, it costs a lot of money, which can obviously affect the listener, okay? So anyway, this is part one. I'm gonna get a part two soon. So I hope you enjoy this video and simply put them out. Bye.